Hey guys, so now that all the cards are out for the Grand Crusade, I'm gonna do a review of my top 10 cards from the whole set. I guess technically it's gonna be 11 cards because I have one wild card here, but then I'm gonna go from reverse order from 10 to 1. So this is my kind of like sleeper pick. I guess it's like my wild card. This is my pick for maybe number 11. I'm a little bit, it's like a high variance card, so talking about a little bit about this card, I feel like this card has like a lot of potential to be something like a another Doctor Boom for Paladin. Say you get out two secrets, you can think of the 6 mana 6/6 as the body of Doctor Boom and the two secrets as like the side boom bots. A secret is probably stronger than a boom bot, but again, this card has a very high cost of adding it to your deck. My intuition would say that if you want to run this, you probably don't want to run Mad Scientist because it's going to be too many secrets, or they have some reverse synergy at that point, since the main problem is that you might run out of secrets in your deck at some point. So I could see maybe running like one of each secret other than Eye for an Eye with this, or maybe like two of one and one of two others, something like that. Maybe Avenge and the new Paladin secret might be some of the stronger secrets, and you can run like a Redemption or a Noble Sacrifice as well. So this is kind of my sleeper pick. It might go up like as a potential to be like a top 5 card, or it might have a potential to be not really used. All right, going to number 10, Master Jouster. So I believe this is the strongest jousting card in the set. Even though it looks like just a Sunwalker with +1/+1, a Sunwalker with +1/+1 is quite good. And there are some decks that should be able to actually get some jousting going on fairly cheaply without sacrificing too much in the deck, making it too big. You know, one of them is mid-range druid or ramp druid, since a lot of the druid small stuff is ramp, so it doesn't count for the joust. Another thing is maybe handlock, but the handlock actually has more small minions. So I believe the strongest jousting card in the deck, in the format, and it is quite a bit to gain from winning the joust. And 6 mana for a 5/6 is not unplayable as far as a 5/6 goes. Pretty nice ratio of stats. Number 9, Argent Horse Rider. So this is, even though TGT hasn't added a whole bunch of aggro cards, this is probably, in my opinion, the strongest card for aggro, and it is quite good. I think it would be better than Wolf Rider in a lot of aggro decks. I can see this being common with something like Cold Blood or Blessing of Might for a really strong Divine Shield Charger. I could even see this replacing Wolf Rider and Face Hunter even without any of the, I guess, Divine Shield buff synergy. It's simply a lot harder to deal with. Even Face Hunters like Wolf Rider hasn't been exactly the most popular card just because how easy it is to kill sometimes. So I feel like it's probably a worthwhile trade to get a -1 attack for a much stickier minion. Number 8, Alex Straz's Champion. Going into TGT, I'm excited about, I guess, like two new things. The first thing is TGT Dragons, I feel like are going to be the real deal. Like, the first Dragon expansion that came out, the last one, Dragons kind of didn't really make it into the competitive scene too much. Was kind of a little bit too weak, and you know they're almost there, but not quite there. And I think TGT is adding just about enough to make dragons a real thing. And this is one of the strongest cards. I can see. I feel like Warrior's going to go in maybe two different directions as far as control warrior goes, like maybe a dragon control warrior and a normal control warrior. And I'm just talking about the dragon control warrior for this card. I can see it being a very strong mana curve. Let's say turn 2 Alex Strata Champion, turn 3 Blackwing Technician, turn 4 Twilight Guardian, turn 5 Blackwing Corruptor. So you have good cards at every mana cost right now, and I could see the deck cutting some control cards, maybe Shield Slams, maybe Executes, maybe Brawl, like some a bit of control to have like more tempo oriented minion based warrior control, kind of like that. So maybe like no Cruel Taskmasters and Armor Smiths, just a little bit different mana curve, but more strong minion based. And this is insanely strong if you ever get the Battle Cry. 2 mana 2/3 is not great, but 2 mana 3/3 Charger is actually insane. So number 7, I believe, Darnassus Aspirant. This is, in my opinion, the strongest druid card. It goes very well in the most popular druid right now. It's not hard to find a shell for this card. You can put it kind of as like a not replacement for wild growth, but a supplement for wild growth and innervate in mid-range double combo druid. It's not exactly easy to kill a 2/3 on turn 2, and a lot of decks will be super incentivized to kill it, and if they don't, then you can straight ramp into your 4s and things like that. There's also some synergy, say, against mirror entity here. You can destroy one of the mage's mana crystals if they copy this, whereas when you're playing it, you don't have to worry about that. I think it's a quite versatile card and kind of like a maybe even a no-brainer for that type of deck. Number 6, Varian Rin, the king himself. So maybe at first I didn't rate this too highly. I'm thinking about this more. I think this is actually a really strong card for Control Warrior. Right now, some of the Control Warrior's weaker matchups are Zoo and mid-range Druid, for example. And I think this could, like, it's a very good replacement for your Sarah. Like, what Varian Rin, what you want to do against, say, Zoo and mid-range Druid is, you know, these decks, Zoo and Druid are pretty late game decks as well, and you sometimes just need to, say, power through. You're not guaranteed to win just because you reach turn 10 as Control Warrior, and it's actually a problem. You run out of steam, this draws you 3 cards, it's a powerful body, and you have the added bonus of any minion you draw putting directly on the battlefield. So depending on how your luck goes, maybe you get an average of like 1.5 minions on the battlefield, and they're pretty strong as well. It's just a way to say, just develop a lot of power on board, and it's super good and in certain matchups, and in like say some weak matchups where you might not want to play your minions on the battlefield with that battle cry. If you're willing to replace say Ysera, since Ysera isn't so good against priest anyways, I think this is like the real deal. It's just a way to put a lot of power. It's very versatile, and Warrior has a hard time drawing cards. You're not guaranteed to draw minions, so you can just draw some cards and put in your hand too for later. So number 5, Ronin. Thinking like this has a lot of comparisons to both Ragnaros and Toshli, but I do think it's more powerful than Toshli. You get 3 missiles instead of 2 spare parts, but Toshli is more undercosted for the body. This is weak to BGH, but again, like I guess you can't really compare too easily Arcane Missiles to spare parts. Arcane Missiles are too much better. I feel like this is going to be a corner piece of Tempo Mage, which is actually, I feel like, does get a lot of buffs from TGT as well. I feel like Ronin is kind of like your, like Archmage is like your king and Ronin is like your queen in chess. It's like, you know, Archmage is like your you know, your final finisher. You can actually almost beat any deck in the late game as Tempo Mage, even though it seems like you're an aggro deck. If you think about, if you can get, say, 3 Arcane Missiles of Ronin, play Archmage, maybe even with an Emperor, it's just way too much damage. 3 Arcane Missiles of Flamewaker is insane late game if you have to be in top deck modes against Flamewaker. Tempo Mage can make a comeback if you're willing to add in a Flame Strike to your deck, which you should be at this point, I think. So I feel like this is a very strong card. Deals with a lot of problems that Mage has, which is trying to find enough spells to combo with Flamewaker and Archmage Antonidas without, say, using like really bad spells. This is number 4, Tuskar Totemic. So I talked about dragons being one of the things. The second thing of TGT, in my opinion, is going to be mid-range Shaman, and more specifically mid-range Totem Shaman. This is one of the corner pieces of the deck. If you think about how like mid-range Paladin develop, it just, you know, they mid-range Paladin also had 3 corner pieces in GVG. The 3 corner pieces of Paladin were Minibot, Muster, and Quartermaster. This is just one of the like ways that mid-range Shaman is going to be like pushed straight into the competitive scene, like really strong tier 1 deck. I feel 3 mana for 2/3 Battlecry summoning a totem, you know, with a couple of strong totems, extra strong totems now like Totem Golem, and also being able to get Flame Tongue and Mana Tide. It's just a ton of value, and like it's like a high value card, high tempo card, and you have added benefit of it being a high synergy card as well, because even on its own this card is quite powerful just for the tempo and value gain, and when you combine the fact that you get a totem, this card is really good. So this is my pick for number 4. Number 3 strongest card in TGT, Twilight Guardian. So going back to the dragons and totem theme, this is actually the bridge that dragon decks need. Before Twilight Guardian was out, it was actually a little bit hard to just bridge the gap. There were like big dragons like 9 mana dragons, maybe a Chromagus, which is kind of, hard to use. And then, there's the 2 Azure Drakes. So as far as like solid dragons go in a dragon deck, you have like 2 drakes and then you go big dragons. And it's hard to have that many big dragons in your deck. The most important thing here is this is a dragon itself, and is not only is a dragon itself, it benefits from having a dragon. And 3/6 with taunt, even though it doesn't seem that much better in Sinjin, or say pay 1 more for a Sludge Belcher, it's just 3/6 is actually kind of perfect, because 3/6, you deal with Pilot Shredder on turn 4, you're not even weak to second charge of Death Spite. Even against Druid, for example, when they play a 4-drop and a Hero Power, they can't, like, if this is a 3/5 Ascension, they can use a Shredder and Hero Power, or Swipe and Hero Power, things like that. 6 is actually really hard to deal with. A lot of 4 damage things in Hearthstone, and then there's a lot of like just +1, to get through that last like 5 damage. 6 health things are really hard to deal with. It's also perfect against Grim Patron. It's not just a 3/6 for 4, it has taunt as well, so it actually, not only does it bridge the gap between Blackwing Technician and Blackwing Corruptor, it also is a very good counter Grim Patron on its own without having to say Sun Fury, a Twilight Drake. And Twilight Drake is much more iffy in any non-Warlock dragon deck, even for dragon control, where you're oftentimes not too confident on the amount of cards in your hand. Alright, number 2 pick is Totem Golem. This is insanely powerful. 2 mana for 3/4 Overload. The important thing here is that it's not only going back on this point, it's not only a strong card on its own right, 2 mana 3/4, it's also a totem. And I'm making a lot of distinctions right now between like tribal distinctions, because they're actually getting to be really important. For example, Twilight Guardian being a dragon and Totem Golem being actually a totem as well. It's much better than a 2 mana for 3/4 with 1 Overload. And if you're able to get out a 3/4 on turn 2, you can kind of snowball the game. I can see this also going very well with even Totemic Might getting something like a 3/6 as early, kind of like a Circle Blade Master combo. Overload is cheaper than adding a mana, so like technically it's better than a 3 mana 3/4. And even a 3 mana 3/4 Spider Tank kind of style minion is not even bad, considering this is a totem as well. It's very early. At some point now we can really embrace Shaman's like totem strength, and instead of using maybe things like Haunted Creeper, which is always a little bit awkward because it goes very well with Flame Tongue, but it's not a powerful minion on its own right. Kind of like, I feel like Shaman, you want like powerful minions on their own right. It's like the identity of Shaman, and then you have like filler totems. This is like another threat on its own right, and then you can just spam totems to kind of absorb damage as well. I feel like this will give Shaman one of the strongest early games again, and then it's a totem. And my number 1 pick is going to be the last trinity of the totem, the new totem stuff, Thunder Bluff Valiant. I had a hard time picking between this and Totem Golem as number 1 and number 2, but ultimately I decided to go for the Thunder Bluff Valiant. The Inspire effect on this is insane. Like, it's like a replacement for Bloodlust in a kind of like a totem deck, except for the fact that it's a threat in its own right. It's recurring. It's hard to kill because it's 6 health for 5. Like, if you think about 5-drop minions, there's very few 5-drop minions that are actually harder to kill than Thunder Bluff Valiant. There's very few, say, things with 7 health. For the most part, 6 health is as much as you're going to get as a 5-drop. And 3/6 is actually quite strong. 4/6 or maybe 4/7 is as strong as you get for 5 drops. The cool thing about Thunder Bluff Valiant is you can kind of think of it as the Totem Chord Master. It's reasonable on turn 5. You don't get the immediate buff on turn 5, but again, it's very hard to kill on turn 5. And if you start going to turn 7 with it, because oftentimes you're playing Chord Master on turn 7 anyways, you can use it, Inspire. The totem that you create gets the +2 attack immediately. It kind of like bloodlusts all your other totems permanently. So it's like, I feel like it's the way to kind of like bridge the weakness of mid-range Shaman. It's not really mid-range a weakness, but it's like the reason why mid-range Paladin can beat control decks going into turn 30 in Fatigue. I feel like Thunder Bluff Valiant provides the same thing, because Thunder Bluff Valiant's a card that can, say, force an AoE on its own, force a brawl on its own. It's single-handedly an army. Like, it's a card that can single-handedly create an army on its own, like a huge threat on its own. So as long as you can maintain initiative against control decks, even if your mana curve looks a lot smaller, you can have the better late game or as good of late game, just using initiative. And I think with the Paladin, I think Muster is stronger than the Quartermaster. With Totems, I actually going to rate the Thunderbluff Valiant a little bit higher than the Totem Golem itself, just because of just all the reasons I said before. So this is my pick for the strongest card. Two of the decks I feel that are going to be really strong things for are going to be totem-based mid-range shamans and a lot of different control dragon decks. Three most likely being Dragon Warrior, Dragon Mage, and for number 3, I'm thinking maybe even Dragon Paladin, since Paladin does have the consort as well. So, alright, so that's going to be my final words of the pre-release of the GVG stuff. We'll see how it goes. I'm pretty excited to see whether my predictions come true or not. It's kind of like a personal pride thing I've actually thought about a lot at this point, so thanks for watching, guys. That's my video.